Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
San Diego police are investigating a string of incidents targeting some of Hillcrest's most popular gay bars as a possible hate crime. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Drive-by shooters armed with pellet guns fired at people enjoying a night out. KPBS reporter MG Perez spoke to one of the victims, and a warning: some of the surveillance video is difficult to watch.
To me, it looked like an AK-47.
Eddie Reynoso had just a split second to react when he was shot as he welcomed VIP guests to Rich's nightclub in the heart of Hillcrest Saturday, just before 1 a.m.
My reaction was to kind of like try to hide, right? But by then it was already too late. I heard the pop, 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 pop.
Before he collapsed on the sidewalk, he says he saw a car on University Avenue with someone in the back seat pointing a gun. San Diego police say it was a pellet gun that hit a few people, but Reynoso got shot in his right eye.
I felt something hit me and just an intense amount of heat, like warmth.
Just a short time before that, a surveillance camera caught what police believe is the same car rushing past another gay bar nearby called The Rail. An employee checking IDs at the door was shot there too. Pellets were also shot outside number 1 Fifth Avenue and later Peck's Bar about a mile away. All establishments that have been popular for decades with the LGBTQ community.
I spoke with Chief David Nislett and incoming Chief Scott Wall. They both assured me that every available resource that the department has is, working on this case.
Reynoso is also the publisher of the LGBTQ San Diego County newspaper and the founder and executive director of the Equality Business Alliance, which serves the community as a chamber of commerce. With San Diego police investigating, they're asking anyone who saw something or might know something about the suspects to contact them. With Pride Month almost here, the community is preparing for protection.
I love to do outreach.
Last summer, Rich's San Diego hosted an active shooter training for its employees, sponsored by Reynoso and the Equality Business Alliance. Another training is now being planned to support employees and the community.
Everyone's got an opinion about how other people should be living their lives rather than letting them live their own lives. So stay in your own lane.
I feel a little less safe now knowing this than I did before, because it sounds clearly like it's targeting the gay community.
Reynoso is wearing filtered glasses and dealing with blurry vision at the moment, but he is expected to recover fully in several weeks. He says hate hurts more, and he's grateful to have not died on that sidewalk.
I thought, I don't want to die leaving something unsaid. I thought of my dad. I thought of my family. So many thoughts race through your mind.
MG Perez, KPBS News.
Senator Elizabeth Warren is calling for the U.S. Department of Defense to review a contract between Oceanside-based Frontwave Credit Union and the Marine Corps. KPBS investigative reporter Scott Rod has the details.
Frontwave has an exclusive arrangement with the Marine Corps that goes back decades. A KPBS investigation found Marine recruits who come through boot camp in San Diego are funneled into the credit union. It also found that Frontwave collects millions in overdraft fees every year, much of which comes from young people serving their country. Members of Congress took notice, and Senator Elizabeth Warren spearheaded an investigation. Here's what she told KPBS in a recent interview.
We were concerned that young Marine recruits are just plain being cheated by this credit union. And this is just one more example of a financial institution honing in on young, vulnerable service members.
Frontwave sent an 8-page letter to lawmakers that answered some of their questions, but Warren is demanding more detailed answers and is now calling on the Department of Defense to get involved. In a statement, she said the DoD should, quote, review its agreement with Frontwave to make sure that service members are not being ripped off. Frontwave CEO Bill Burney declined to comment. Scott Rodd, KPBS News.
I will continue to experience low cloudiness here throughout the coast, as well as some of the interior valleys over the course of the next couple of days. With that onshore flow in place, we'll also notice a little bit of a cooling trend, especially toward the interior valleys and the mountains. We'll also talk about the desert temperatures. Could we see some changes, though, by the time we get in toward the upcoming weekend? Still a ways away. We'll check it out coming up in just a bit.
The International Criminal Court is seeking arrest warrants for Hamas and Israeli leadership. Laura Aguirre spoke with the ICC prosecutor to break down the war crimes prompting the arrest warrants.
October 7th, 2023, the Hamas terror attack that ignited a war and a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Now, an international prosecutor is taking action against both sides.
We've applied for warrants to the pretrial chamber of the International Criminal Court in relation to 3 individuals that are Hamas members. The charges are extermination, murder, taking of hostages, rape and sexual assault in detention.
In a statement Monday, Hamas said it strongly condemns the ICC prosecutor's attempts to equate victims with aggressors by issuing arrest warrants against Palestinian resistance leaders.
We have a variety of evidence to support the applications that we've submitted to the judges.
The ICC prosecutor is also going after Israeli leadership.
We'll apply for warrants for Prime Minister Netanyahu and also Minister of Defense Gallant for crimes of causing extermination, causing starvation as a method of war, including the denial of humanitarian relief supplies, deliberately targeting civilians in conflict.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the application for warrants a political outrage and says the war will continue until the hostages are released and Hamas is destroyed. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Monday afternoon the U.S. fundamentally rejects the ICC prosecutor's actions, adding that the ICC doesn't have jurisdiction in this matter. The arrest applications now go to a panel of ICC judges for consideration. I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
A new squadron of small unmanned Navy ships is up and running in San Diego Bay. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer has this from Coronado.
The Navy's expanding its autonomous ship program with another squadron of small vessels. Due to its peculiar naming convention, Unmanned Surface Vessel Squadron 3 is actually only the service's second autonomous ship squadron. However, it's the first based in San Diego. Its establishment ceremony was Friday at Naval Base Coronado. Surface Force Commander Vice Admiral Brendan McLean said the boats show the adaptability of the Navy.
Modern warfare requires faster innovation and adaptation. Our Navy needs to bring ideas to prototype, to experimentation, and to build solutions faster than ever.
The USVs are about the size of a 2-person rowboat, but can carry different equipment such as sensors, communications, and weapons. They can operate by remote control, semi, or fully autonomous. Lieutenant Nicole Kim says being part of the squadron is exciting because everything they're doing is experimental.
Developing the future capabilities of the Navy is also really rewarding because I get to say in the future that I was a part of that.
The technology is so new that electronics technician second class Caleb Cox says he didn't even know it was an option when he joined the Navy.
I can't say it was my first thought as what I would be doing. However, I've always had an interest in working with unmanned systems, and this was kind of presented as the perfect opportunity.
The squadron is pretty small for now, with just about 20 sailors and 4 boats, but the Navy says more boats and hundreds more sailors are on the way. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
4 months after floodwaters submerged an affordable housing complex in National City, dozens of families are starting to move back into their homes. 25 families in all, mostly refugee families, were displaced from the Delta Street apartments. It's owned by the nonprofit Chicano Federation, which paid more than $1 million out of pocket for the rebuild and to support residents.
Families lost the very little that they had. They don't have family support, so we knew that we needed to be there for all of the families.
And while there's still some work left in some of the units, all the displaced residents should be back in their apartments within 2 weeks. Local businesses in need of financial assistance after January's devastating flood are running out of time to get it. The Small Business Administration announced today it's winding down its disaster loan outreach centers in San Diego County this week. The Spring Valley and Mountain View centers will permanently close at 6 p.m. Thursday, May 23rd. And until then, businesses and residents can meet with SBA representatives for help. The Spring Valley Center is open from 9 to 6, but closes an hour early on Tuesdays. In Mountain View, the center is open 10 to 6, but opens at noon on Tuesday, and no appointment is needed. Among Governor Gavin Newsom's proposed budget cuts is $300 million in annual funding for the state's Future of Public Health initiative. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco says that includes a $14 million cut for San Diego County.
The program started in 2022 in response to COVID-19 to help each public health department address local needs. San Diego County officials are currently assessing the effects of the proposed cuts, but say it will impact delays in responding to and preventing some diseases. Beach water testing could also be affected. San Diego public health nurse Michelle Zitlau Johnson worries that the consequences go beyond the possibility of losing staff and resources.
Not only do I think about my fellow coworkers possibly losing their positions, but I think about the people in our community that are the most vulnerable, where we will not be able to serve them like we have, and they will be suffering the most.
She says it's not just about preventing another pandemic.
It's the everyday bacteria that we are battling to keep from becoming something that will really hurt our community.
Public health advocates are urging the state legislature to keep the funding. They say it allowed them to fill 900 positions across the state, including infectious disease investigators, nurses, and lab staff. The legislature has to approve the budget by June 15th. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
More Americans are falling behind on bills, especially when it comes to credit card payments. And this seems to be particularly true for Gen Zers, according to research from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Michael Yoshida has more.
As Wall Street hits historic highs and unemployment remains low, experts say cost of living continues to be a struggle for millions of Americans, with many turning to their credit cards to make payments.
Credit card balances have been on a really steep incline lately. High inflation and high interest rates are really squeezing borrowers.
The New York Fed recently found that for Gen Z credit card users, who it defines as those born between 1995 and 2011, around 15% have maxed out their credit cards. For Gen Xers, the number is 9.6%. And for baby boomers, the number drops to just under 5%.
Gen Zers tend to have lower credit limits because they're newer to credit. So it is easier to max out, let's say, a credit card with a $1,000 limit or $2,000 limit as opposed to maybe $5,000 that somebody who's more established might have.
A third of maxed out borrowers, those using 90 to 100% of their limit, have gone delinquent in the last year, compared to less than a quarter before the pandemic. With severe delinquencies, those 90 days overdue at their highest level since 2012. While many Americans of all ages are struggling, high inflation and high interest rates are making it especially difficult for young people to get established.
It does seem to be hitting young adults the hardest because they have lower incomes, they have lower credit scores. There's a record amount of young adults who are living with parents because these household formation costs have really never been higher.
In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Yoga instructors in San Diego are challenging a city ordinance that restricts where group classes can be held. Attorney Brian Pease sent a cease and desist letter to the city on their behalf, calling the ordinance unconstitutional and threatening legal action. Yoga instructor Steve Hubbard teaches a free class in Pacific Beach, though he does accept donations. Hubbard told our media partner KGTV that he received a ticket from park rangers enforcing an ordinance designed to crack down on illegal street vending.
My frustration and a lot of people's are the city's priorities. There's a lot of things going on in this city that need attention and that need fixing. Yoga is not one of them.
The city of San Diego says the code has been in effect since 1993, and the revisions back in March have, quote, clarified the activities for which necessary permitting applies. Hubbard says he wants the ability to get a permit to teach in Palisades Park, which is currently not an option. The Summer Olympics are just a few months away, and this year there are 5 athletes from Baja California. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis says that's a record.
When it comes to sports, Baja knows how to party. Hundreds of young athletes from Baja California cheer on 3 of 5 locals who have already qualified for the Olympics. They are in a packed auditorium at Tijuana's Olympic Training Center with strobe lights, electronic dance music, and even hype videos. Baja's best young athletes put on live performances and even a fashion show. That's right, picture martial artists doing flips on the runway. Ping pong players hitting balls into the cheering crowd, and even surfers strutting down the runway with a surfboard under their arm. Even Baja California's governor, Marina del Pilar Ávila, got in on the action, showing up in the same Baja California tracksuit most of the athletes wore.
Porque son ustedes, cada uno de ustedes, jóvenes atletas, lo que mejor representa a nuestra tierra.
You represent the best that Baja California has to offer, the governor told young athletes who are part of the state's Olympic training pipeline. Every year, coaches hold workshops in schools throughout the state and identify the most promising athletes.
A los mejores deportistas de Baja California que se encuentran todos aquí reunidos en estos momentos.
And while the tracksuit governor got her fair share of applause, the real stars of the show were the Olympic athletes. Groups of children swarmed around them, hoping to get a selfie with a star. It was a surreal experience for gymnast Natalia Escalera.
Yo en un momento fui esa niña que pedía las fotos.
She used to be one of those little girls asking for photos.
Y ahora que soy yo la que tiene que darlas y todo eso, la verdad que me emociona demasiado.
The 21-year-old from Ensenada has been training for the Olympics since she was 8 years old. She says she sacrificed a normal childhood, couldn't go to a regular school with most of her friends, and has had to stick to a strict diet most of her life.
Muy emocionada de poder llevar un pedacito de Baja California a otro país.
Now, she's just excited to represent her little part of Baja in the Olympics. That's something other Olympians are especially proud of, to represent Mexico on the world stage.
Y siempre es bonito decir, miren, mi país también tiene cosas importantes, también podemos ser grandes. Entonces es muy lindo.
That is Alexa Moreno, one of Mexico's most decorated gymnasts. She says it's wonderful to show what Mexico has to offer, that Mexico can also produce world-class talent.
Bene.
The 29-year-old lives in Baja California's capital, Mexicali, but she's been traveling to Texas to train with American gymnast Simone Biles.
Al final lo más importante no es no caer, sino volver a levantarte.
Her advice to Baja's young athletes? The important thing is not to avoid mistakes. It's to pick yourself up and try again and again and again. The third Olympian at the party was rower Alexis Lopez. He's from a small town that most people couldn't point to on a map.
Yo soy San Felipe, de San Felipe. Es un pueblo de máximo 20,000 habitantes.
San Felipe is a town of, at most, 20,000 people, tucked away along the Gulf of California. It's mostly known as a quaint little fishing village, and now, home to an Olympic rower. Lopez most recently won a gold medal at the 2023 Pan American Games in Chile.
Todo es posible si tú tienes tu dedicación y un focus a donde quiere llegar y enfocado en eso.
His message to young athletes, anything is possible with the right dedication and focus. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
San Diego native Xander Schauffele is taking home the PGA title. He birdied the 18th hole to win the PGA Championship Sunday in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a big win for the Scripps Ranch High School and San Diego State alum. Until now, he has been known as one of the most talented golfers to never win one of golf's 4 flagship events.
It feels amazing. Yeah, just a wide range of emotions for me. Very satisfying win, and I really can't wait to get back and celebrate with my team.
Well, congratulations to him because he's also taking home more than $3 million in prize money. Well, summer is when kids have more spare time and potentially they'll have more screen time. Mandy Gaither has some expert advice for parents on how to lay the ground rules now.
In the age of technology, it can be hard to know how much is too much time spent in front of a screen.
Each of our children are different. We love them all the same, but they're all different.
The CDC says excessive time spent on screens has been linked to things like weight gain, physical inactivity, reduced sleep quality, poor body image, poor nutrition, depression, and anxiety. That's why setting screen time limits now is important, and how parents do it is also critical, says Chris Ivany with the Family Care Center.
That's what really develops the relationship, between especially teenagers and their parents, is how they engage on things like screen time.
Ivany says the 5 C's of media use can help. The first C is for child. Since parents know their children, think about how media affects them, what they're attracted to. Next, content. Learn about what your child is watching, what games they're playing. Third, calm. What are other ways to calm brains and bodies down instead of media? Fourth, crowding out. If media use is stopping your child from things like family quality time, sleep, or time outdoors, think of ways to get that time back. Finally, communication. Talk about media early and often.
The best way to look at the 5 C's is that it's a framework, for parents to think about screen time and their particular child.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
I'll tour the coastline tonight. Expect those low clouds to persist. Some of those will work their way towards some of the interior valleys as well. So the temperatures drop down into the 50s. You can see the extent of some of that low cloudiness here working its way into some of those valleys as we go throughout the morning, and then primarily confined to the coast here as we head our way toward the afternoon and the evening time frame. And then it's a rinse repeat here as we work our way into Wednesday. So high pressure's off toward the north, but again, it's not a strong enough high pressure nor its exact location to give us enough of an offshore flow to where we see again an abundance of sunshine here right at the immediate shoreline. So instead we start things off cloudy, but over the interior we'll be in good shape here throughout the deserts and also the mountainous locations. Ramona tops off at 72, Borrego Springs 93, Mount Laguna into the upper 50s. Then on Wednesday, high pressure slides its way off toward the east, and we continue to see that bit of onshore flow. We will be on the dry side, which is not surprising now that we're out of the dry season, but we will again continue to see those cooler temperatures hanging around. So here at the coast, again, notice the low clouds and sun on a daily basis here as we go throughout the upcoming week, with a little or any change here from our overnight lows to our daytime highs. The interior valleys, if anything, like I said, will be a little bit cooler here as we work our way toward Thursday. Also heading in toward Friday, high temperatures at that point into the upper 60s. Overnight lows into the 50s. Sunshine, though, returns here for the weekend, so that's always good, right? And then we talk about the mountainous locations, and just a couple degrees cooler here as we work our way through time, but especially here as we head toward Friday and Saturday. In combination with the chill will be the wind, that added factor here. And the desert's too cooling off as we venture our way into Friday and also into Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
Memorial Day weekend is expected to be one of the busiest travel weekends in nearly 2 decades. So when is the best time to hit the road? Here's Jen Sullivan.
If you're driving or flying this Memorial Day weekend, expect plenty of company on the roads and in the skies.
We're expecting the second busiest Memorial Day weekend of air travel since we started tracking at the beginning of the century.
AAA estimates nearly 44 million people will travel 50 miles or more this holiday weekend. That's a 4% increase from last year. Most people will be driving to their destination, with more than 38 million drivers expected to be on the roads. So, when's the best time to avoid the traffic?
We see the busiest times to be on the road is Thursday and Friday evenings when you've got the travelers mixing in with the regular commuters.
Heading out before 11 a.m. on Thursday or after 7 p.m. on Friday and returning home after 7 p.m. on Monday night is the best time to be driving. And when it comes to gas prices, they expect to pay slightly more this year. The national average price for a regular gallon of gas as of Monday was $3.59, according to AAA. That's about 5 cents higher than this time last year. If you're driving, it's not just your tank you should check.
Folks should check their tire pressure, make sure everything in their car is in working order before you set out on a long road trip.
Airports will likely see a spike in travelers, too. More than 3.5 million people will be flying. It's expected to be the most crowded Memorial Day weekend at airports since 2005. So give yourself plenty of time to check in and get through security. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Senate Democrats are calling for the chamber to re-vote on a bipartisan border bill this week. On NPR's Morning Edition, the message they hope to send ahead of the election. And KPBS Midday Edition is bringing together experts to discuss the reclassification of cannabis, what it could mean for research into the drug as well as equity. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.